East Ham in East London, a UK identity fraud hotspot according to Experian. But across the country, the prevalence of scams and fraud is on the up. According to a new report from the Commons Public Accounts Committee, UK consumer protection has failed to keep up with online fraud.
In Citizens Advice Bureaus, we deal with hundreds of thousands of consumer problems every year, and all of a sudden, particularly since the recession, we started to come across scams on the internet. So it's very difficult for a local trading standards department, and most of our consumer protection officers are based locally, to keep up.
The report comes as the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills set out plans to restructure consumer protection in the UK. In a statement, a spokesperson from the department said,
"Our main priority is to ensure that local authorities use their resources effectively to target those bigger scams that affect consumers on a wider scale."
And it's these wide-scale scams that this report really emphasises as a new and serious threat to consumers, as the impact of enclaves of fraudulent activity spreads out across the country. And for Tony Levine, LoveMoney.com's scam expert, the emergence of these fraud enclaves is no coincidence.
The scammers know that, well, let's look for an area which is lax on what we do, or couldn't care less probably, and let's set up there. So what you get is you get clusters. So for instance, if you look at dodgy sales of solar panels, most of the solar panel companies were clustered in one part of the south coast. Now, if you look at another scam, which was telling businesses, small businesses, really small businesses, they needed to register for data protection. Total nonsense, but they were all clustered in Lancashire. Now, that is not coincidence. It's because they think that the local trading standards will ignore them.
But if local trading standards do ignore these scammers, they're not just putting residents in their own area at risk, as the internet gives fraudsters a direct line into the life of people nationwide. But that doesn't mean that consumers can't protect themselves when online. Matt Egan is the editor of PC Advisor magazine.
Most web browsers these days will, in the URL bar at the top there, they'll highlight the main domain. If something else is highlighted and you're not sure, that's potentially a bit dodgy. Other things to look out for are how well made the site is. Do they have a privacy policy? Can you find a street address for that organisation? All these things add up. And then the other thing, of course, is reputation. There are these days plenty of good tools that can show you the reputation of a site immediately. So for instance, McAfee's Site Advisor was the first of these. It's a free plugin that you can put into all web browsers, and that will give you an idea of what the mass of web users think about that particular website.
But despite internet security tools, online scams are still evolving, and the consumer target base for fraudsters is expanding. As most people look towards a financially tight Christmas, scammers are preparing for a busy one.